On February 26, 2026, Jim Carrey shocked the world in Paris. It was at the Cesar Awards, and his appearance made the internet melt down. You all know Jim Carrey. We all love The Mask and Ace Ventura and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And you probably know that he has largely retreated from the public eye recently. He announced his retirement in 2022, saying he would only do occasional projects like the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. In Paris, Jim Carrey made a rare and highly anticipated appearance to accept an honorary Cesar Award recognizing his lifetime achievements. When Carrey walked the red carpet, people started freaking out. Jim Carrey looked different. He had shoulder-length black hair and a clean-shaven face, which was a different look than he had been rocking in recent years when he usually had sort of a unshaven, reclusive look. He would step up to the podium and deliver a acceptance speech entirely in French. It was a beautiful moment with the actor honoring his heritage. But the internet saw an imposter. Within hours of the broadcast, video clips flooded Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. Users dissected his physical appearance under the harsh red carpet lighting, comparing his 2026 look to photographs taken in the early 2000s. The discussion got full-on crazy quick, with millions of users scrutinizing his facial features, his subdued demeanor, and what they swear was a change in his eye color. The consensus among these internet detectives was that the man on stage lacked the high-energy, elastic-faced performance style associated with the real Jim Carrey. And the story solidified that Jim Carrey had been cloned and replaced by a synthetic body double. There was an imposter, a highly trained actor wearing a hyper-realistic prosthetic mask. The Jim Carrey clone theory was highly amplified, weaponized engagement bait by a prominent digital creator. As the debate over Carrey's unrecognizable appearance dominated social media, Alexis Stone seized the moment. Alexis Stone is globally renowned in the beauty and entertainment sectors for using intricate clay modeling, heavy paints, and highly advanced prosthetics to impersonate elite celebrities with terrifying accuracy. On March 1st, 2026, Alexis Stone put out an incredible piece of engagement bait. Broadcasting to a massive following of 1.3 million on Instagram, the artist published a sequence of curated images. The post featured close-up photographs of Carrey at the Cesar Awards, positioned alongside imagery of an entire hyper-realistic AI-generated full-head mask wig and set of custom dental veneers, suggesting that Stone had physically worn the prosthetic disguise to impersonate the actor and infiltrate the French Film Awards. And the internet had already been guessing for days, so it completely lost it. So the story changed. It was absolutely certain that Stone had hijacked the Cesar Awards. As you know, conspiracy theories thrive in vacuums of information. The claims of this impersonation were dismantled by medical experts and people at the ceremony itself. Radar Online consulted Dr. Rafi Hovsepian, who is a highly respected, board-certified cosmetic and plastic surgeon. The doctor conducted a thorough visual analysis of Carrey's appearance from the event, and his findings offered a grounded explanation. The biggest noticeable change in Carrey's facial structure sat directly in the mid-face and cheek area, where he observed a slightly increased fullness compared to older pictures. This type of change is consistent with dermal fillers, a standard cosmetic treatment utilized globally to restore age-related facial volume loss. The surgeon also suggested it could be residual temporary swelling from recent volumizing work. The surgeon observed absolutely no evidence of any type of surgical overhauls. The doctor would emphasize that Carrey's face still moves naturally and retains identity, which he argued said that proves it was conservative cosmetic treatment. The prosthetic mask theory from Alexis Stone was obliterated by David Malinowski, who is an Oscar-winning expert in prosthetics and makeup effects. After he reviewed the footage from the awards, Malinsky said he is absolutely not wearing a mask. In my opinion, that's 100% Jim Carrey, and Jim Carrey is not wearing any prosthetics either. And, of course, the people who ran the Cesar Awards stepped in to forcefully reject the imposter narrative. And they pointed out how absurd that claim is. Gregory Coyer, the general delegate of the Cesars, released a statement to Variety characterizing the entire controversy as a baffling non-issue. Coyer revealed the extensive behind-the-scenes reality of the event, saying that Carrey's attendance had been meticulously planned over 8 months of ongoing discussions that began in the summer of the previous year. Carrey discussed Carrey's profound emotional investment in the honor. The actor had spent months practicing his acceptance speech in French, frequently contacting Carrey to ask about exact phonetic pronunciation of specific nuanced French words. Carrey's emotional presence was genuine, and his warm interactions with lifelong friends obliterate the possibility of a body double or a prankster infiltrating the event. To really understand why this story took off, you need to know that the idea of the Jim Carrey clone conspiracy began in September 2017 during a very uncomfortable viral red carpet interview at the New York Fashion Week. While attending the fancy Harper's Bazaar Icons party, Carrey was stopped for a standard celebrity interview by E! News, and Carrey immediately derailed the standard superficial celebrity pleasantries that usually happen during these types of interviews. When E!'s reporter noted that Carrey had gotten dressed up for the occasion, Carrey deadpanned, "I didn't get dressed up. There is no me. There's just things happening. It's not our world. We don't matter." The E! correspondent was shocked and attempted to pivot, trying to guide the conversation back to the theme of the evening, celebrating cultural icons. Carrey proceeded to continue, saying, "I wanted to find the most meaningless thing I could come to and join, and here I am." He then took the interview into an existential area. "I don't believe in personalities," Carrey told the reporter. "I believe that peace lies beyond personality, beyond invention and disguise, and beyond the red S that you wear on your chest that makes bullets bounce off. I believe we're a field of energy dancing for itself, and I don't care." People were shocked by the interview. We're used to Jim Carrey being a manic, rubber-faced, exaggerated comic from what we saw in the movies in the 90s. And it was tough to take the image of that with this bearded, hermit-like, philosophical, and seemingly depressed man on their screens. People began to say that the real Jim Carrey was gone. It was initially used as an explanation for a changing personality, but internet conspiracy theorists quickly literalized the concept, spinning it into a genuine belief that the original actor had been removed from society and replaced. But this appearance was because of Jim Carrey's deep, years-long dive into Eastern philosophical traditions and lingering trauma. Philosophers quickly noted that Carrey was heavily engaged with forms of Buddhism, non-dualism, and Vedanta. His statements closely mirrored the teachings of modern Vedanta proponents like Rupert Spira, who argued that the ego, the concept of self, is fundamentally an illusion. This was further documented in the critically acclaimed 2017 documentary Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond. Directed by Chris Smith, this film used hundreds of hours of behind-the-scenes footage from the 1999 production of the Andy Kaufman biopic Man on the Moon. The documentary revealed that Jim Carrey had engaged in a terrifyingly extreme form of method acting, utterly refusing to break character as Andy Kaufman or Kaufman's alter ego, Tony Clifton, for the entire duration of the film's production. The psychological toll of erasing his own personality to become someone else for months on end deeply influenced Carrey's later philosophical beliefs. He began to view his fame and his very name as just an avatar that he had constructed. He had stated repeatedly in interviews that there is no Jim Carrey. He simply realized that he was playing a character of Jim Carrey, just as deeply as he had played Andy Kaufman. For internet conspiracy theorists, unable to grasp the nuances of existential philosophy, this metaphorical death of ego was interpreted as a literal, terrifying confession that he had been replaced. In September 2015, Carrey's on and off girlfriend, a 30-year-old Irish makeup artist named Cathriona White, was found dead in her Sherman Oaks, California residence. The couple had a tumultuous history. They originally met on a film set in 2012, dated through most of 2013, and eventually reunited in 2015. However, the pair split again before her tragic death. The toxicology reports would reveal fatal levels of prescription medications in her system, and Jim Carrey was left utterly devastated. Jim Carrey would issue an emotional public statement mourning the passing of his sweet Cathriona, describing her as a truly kind and delicate Irish flower, too sensitive for the soil, to whom loving and being loved was all that sparkled. However, the agonizing tragedy of losing a loved one quickly mutated into a grueling, highly sensationalized legal battle that would dominate the next several years of Jim Carrey's life. In 2016, White's estranged husband, alongside White's mother, filed explosive wrongful death lawsuits against the actor in the state of California. The plaintiffs utilized California's Drug Dealer Liability Act White to allege that Carrey had illegally obtained the highly addictive medications under a false alias and supplied them directly to White, despite being aware of her long documented history of severe depression and mental illness. The lawsuit was vicious. The opposition's attorneys publicly accused Carrey of transmitting STIs to White, citing a letter allegedly written by White in April 2013 in order to build a narrative of systematic psychological and physical abuse. Carrey furiously denied the allegations across the board. He filed a counterclaim for extortion, publicly describing the lawsuits as a heartless, opportunistic attempt by estranged family members to exploit his profound grief and the memory of the woman he loved. The brutal litigation would drag on for years and took a severe emotional and physical toll on Jim Carrey. Finally, in early 2018, the wrongful death lawsuits were entirely dismissed by the court, clearing Carrey of the legal charges and putting an end to that awful chapter. The compounding trauma of losing a romantic partner, combined with years of highly invasive litigation, accounts for Jim Carrey's physical aging, as well as his temporary retreat from the Hollywood spotlight and his deepening reliance on spiritual practices. He was trying to find peace. Aging celebrities are often judged through the lens of pure nostalgia, and the public expects these icons to remain perfectly frozen in amber. When Jim Carrey finally returned to the public eye in 2026, he was visibly older. He was spiritually altered. He was scarred by grief, and he had gotten some cosmetic fillers. The public lacked the cognitive ability to accept this deeply human change, and instead came up with a conspiracy theory. The sad truth of the matter is that it's easier for a fan to believe that a celebrity has been covertly replaced by a laboratory clone than it is to face the brutal realities of aging, mental illness, and world-altering grief. People looking at celebrities and claiming that they have been replaced by an imposter isn't new. It has roots in clinical psychology and neuroscience. Capgras syndrome is a psychological disorder characterized by the delusional belief that a friend, spouse, parent, or other significant figure has been entirely replaced by an identical-looking imposter. A patient suffering from Capgras syndrome will admit that the doppelganger looks, sounds, and acts exactly like the original person, but they remain convinced of the deception, and no amount of arguing or pleading or physical evidence or logic can convince them otherwise. In the social media era, the concepts of Capgras syndrome has evolved into a mass scale delusion that's applied to parasocial relationships. When a fan forms an idealized parasocial bond with a celebrity, any deviation from what they think in their head that person looks threatens that person's ability to understand. Aging, getting sober, or even just changing styles feels like a personal betrayal to an obsessed fan. Therefore, the celebrity must be an imposter, because the alternative means accepting that the nostalgia that the fan desperately clings to is gone forever. Also, modern social media incentivizes and even monetizes these theories. The algorithms that power platforms like YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok are designed to maximize user engagement. So they actively promote highly entertaining, emotionally charged content, such as body double conspiracies, over boring reality. Like, hey, this 64-year-old man got some fillers after a decade of depression. The Jim Carrey clone theory is just the latest in a long established history of celebrity replacement conspiracies. The most famous celebrity replacement theory is from the 1960s and is the legendary Paul is dead conspiracy. In 1969, an unstoppable rumor swept through college campuses and underground newspapers, claiming that Paul McCartney, the beloved Beatle, had been tragically killed in a gruesome car crash on November 9th, 1966. According to this elaborate theory, the surviving band members were desperate to protect their legions of fans from the sheer heartbreak and were heavily pressured by management to maintain their global success. So they covered up the death. They held a secret lookalike contest, replacing McCartney with the winner, a man named William Campbell, who has also been referred to as Billy Shears. Proponents of this theory claim that the guilt of this massive deception overwhelmed John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, so they hid elaborate clues in their records to ease their conscience. Theorists point to the 1966 song Taxman, where Harrison supposedly offered his literal advice for those who died, and fixated on the lyric, "He blew his mind out in a car," in the track A Day in the Life. When played backwards, the outro of Strawberry Fields Forever allegedly contained the voice of John Lennon mumbling, "I buried Paul." Lennon later clarified in interviews that the phrase he was mumbling was actually cranberry sauce, and he denied the existence of any backward messaging. But the damage was done. The most famous clue is the 1969 Abbey Road album cover. Theorists viewed the photograph of the band crossing the street as a symbolic funeral procession. John Lennon dressed entirely in white, representing the priest, Ringo Starr in a black suit as the undertaker, George Harrison in denim as the gold digger, and a barefoot, slightly out-of-step Paul representing the corpse. Despite evidence to the contrary, like Paul McCartney's highly visible existence, his denying that he was dead, and the formation of the band Wings, his decades-long solo career, the theory lasted for years. It showed how powerful these types of stories can be. Decades later, the Paul is dead formula was updated for the internet age in 2011 with the emergence of the Avril Lavigne replacement theory. The rumor originated on a Brazilian fan blog ominously titled Avril is Dead. The story was that following the explosive worldwide success of her 2002 debut album Let Go, she struggled severely with the crushing pressures of sudden global fame. Following the death of her grandfather, she fell into a deep, inescapable depression. According to the conspiracy, Lavigne died in 2003. To protect her lucrative Punky Lavigne brand, record label executives ordered a full-scale cover-up. They hired a lookalike actress named Melissa Vandella to distract the paparazzi and taught her how to sing and permanently take over the superstar's life. The evidence relied on obsessive analysis of Lavigne's shifting physical appearance, vocal tone, and fashion choices between 2003 and the present day. People pointed to Lavigne's highly publicized transition from wearing bagger skater pants and ties to favoring skirts and dresses as proof of Melissa's distinct feminine personality. And internet sleuths fixated on a promotional photo shoot in which Lavigne literally had the name Melissa written on her hand in black marker. In a maybe surprising twist, the Brazilian blog that created the Avril Lavigne story admitted that the site was created specifically as a hoax to demonstrate to the public how easy conspiracy theories can spread online. Lavigne has repeatedly denied the claims on multiple occasions that she is dead or that she is somebody else, saying that the rumor is absurd and questioning why fans would pick on her, yet it's one of the most famous, widely discussed pop culture myths of the 21st century. The Jim Carrey clone conspiracy reveals a truth about ourselves. These theories have almost nothing to do with evidence or secret Hollywood cabals. Instead, they're psychological defense mechanisms. They're triggered by our parasocial grief, our inability to process the realities of human aging, and the weaponization of internet algorithms designed to prioritize engagement over truth. When Jim Carrey stepped onto the stage at the 2026 Cesar Awards in Paris, he was a genuine 64-year-old man who had survived intense global fame, navigated grueling, catastrophic grief, and for the general public, coming to terms with the reality that the person that they loved in the 1990s could be altered by the cruelties of life is an uncomfortable psychological burden. It's easier to blame an imposter or a laboratory clone or an AI mask. From Paul McCartney's mythical 1966 car crash to Avril Lavigne's body double, society overwhelmingly prefers the permanence of a manufactured conspiracy to the fleeting and fragile nature of human existence. The algorithms that govern digital communications reward these conspiracy theories, and these conspiracy theories are a monument to our collective denial of mortality. Please subscribe to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Please like and share this video. If you'd like to support the channel, you could become a member. I appreciate you considering that. You can also support me by continuing to watch my videos, and I do appreciate you watching my videos. And please stay spooky.